Let me tell you, being on a flight where the captain is announcing Mayday to all of the passengers is maybe one of the most terrifying things that has ever happened to me. I get given a Bermuda immigration card that's like, what's your purpose here? And I'm like, I don't know, accidentally landed. Hey guys, welcome back to the Girl Gone London channel. If you're new here and wondering why I'm wearing a travel pillow indoors, this video is all about the time that my flight emergency landed in Bermuda. So if you are new to the Girl Gone London channel, welcome. I'm still gonna wear this in the intro and then I'll take it off. My name is Kaylin and I'm an American expat who's lived in the UK for the past 10 years. Mostly I talk about the differences between US and UK life or things I've experienced as an expat. But today I have a story time for you because I feel like this is a story worth sharing and honestly so crazy that people don't even believe it until I show them like the news articles about it and my actual proof of my Bermuda immigration form, even though I was trying to go to the US. This is a story about a flight from the UK to the US, and I will get into that in a second. Go ahead and subscribe if you're interested in hearing more story times like this or getting more information on life in the UK versus the US. Again, I'm wearing this travel pillow to show you that you should get comfortable because it's kind of a long story that involves a plane smelling like smoke, an emergency landing in Bermuda, a 4-star resort, and much more. Get comfortable and let me get into this. Okay. So, first things first, again, as I said, this is a story about a flight from the UK to the US. Why was I going from the UK to the US? Well, because I had a massive expat meltdown and was very, very homesick. I was just having a moment where the seasons were turning from summer to autumn, which I absolutely hate, and I was rampaging around the house, being like, I can't do this, I don't want to do this, I am trapped, I am stuck. Get me out of this country. My husband's like, okay, well, if you need to go, then go. He's like, I'm not really sure if she's coming back, but like, you do you. I bought a 700-pound plane ticket on Virgin Atlantic for the next day. So I could go indirect or direct, and I chose to go direct, which will become very funny as this story goes on, blah, blah, blah. Get to the airport. I'm like full on meltdown. Get me out of here. Get on the flight. Everything's fine. We take off. I don't really like flying, but I like flying to the US because then I'm going home or to my other home. It's very confusing when you're an expat where home really is, but to me, I was going home. We're about an hour and a half into the flight, and all of a sudden it starts smelling like smoke, or kind of, I thought something was burning that they were making in the like kitchen, like a burnt panini or something like that, but I was like, you know what, this doesn't smell normal. Then the captain comes on and he's like, I need all flight attendants to the front ASAP, like drop what you're doing. At this point, I'm like, okay, this is not great, but maybe he wants to tell them the football score or something like that. So all these flight attendants rush to the front of the plane. I'm like, this is not a good situation. And the flight attendants kind of start trickling back. They're like getting ready for what he then comes on to say. Hello everybody, we smell a burning. We're not sure where it's coming from, okay? And we are going to make an emergency landing back at Gatwick. So at this point, we were about an hour from Gatwick, so we weren't too far on our journey when you consider that it was about a 10-hour flight. But we were far enough that I was like, oh, okay, we're gonna be on this plane for an hour as it burns back to Gatwick. Okay, fine. He was being very calm, and I'm like, okay, we're fine. We had to dump fuel because we had too much fuel to land safely, and I'm like, okay, we're good, we're good, we're good. I've got my tunes in my head. I'm like, really wanting to get out of here, but we are going to circle back and land back in the UK, which I'm desperately trying to leave, but okay. Do not want to be on a plane that's on fire. We're close. We definitely are much closer to Gatwick because of what happens next. We are circling, and of course I am somebody who is so nervous on flights. I am like watching the flight tracker. I'm watching all this. I'm seeing that we're circling. I'm like, okay, we're just gonna wait our turn to land. How much of an emergency can this be? Then he comes on and he goes, Mayday, Mayday, requesting immediate landing, or whatever his phrasing was. He definitely said Mayday. Let me tell you, being on a flight where the captain is announcing Mayday to all of the passengers is maybe one of the most terrifying things that has ever happened to me. But in true British versus American fashion, the couple next to me, who were Brits, were having a very calm conversation about how they weren't going to make it in time for their rental car in Orlando. And I was like, you guys, I think we are about to die. Your car can wait. But typical keep calm and carry on British fashion, they were like, oh, this is gonna be a little bit of an inconvenience for our car parking situation, our rental car situation. I'm like, okay. So he declares Mayday. Now, this was an accident. He did not mean to declare Mayday to all of the passengers. He was attempting to do it to air traffic control, which comes out later, but it accidentally got broadcast to all of us. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna die. And I'm like praying to who knows who, just being like, this is how it ends, all because I just really wanted some Cheez-Its and Wendy's Frosties. Like, not a good way to go out, but okay. So people start crying and like hyperventilating. I'm just sitting there like, just sheer terror. The couple next to me worried about their parking, and we eventually come screeching in, emergency landing, we're on the ground. I'm like, okay, I've made it back to the UK, not what I wanted, but definitely don't want to be on a flight that's on fire. So we're sitting on the runway, we have firefighters come on, and they have to take off a woman who was hyperventilating because of the situation. They're checking things out, the pilot's checking things out. We're all sitting on there like, I hope this plane doesn't blow up. About an hour goes by, and again, this story is about going to Bermuda, so you're like, how did you get to Bermuda on a flight that then landed back at Gatwick? Hang on, that is coming. They come over the loudspeaker, or what is it called on a plane? Not the intercom. Someone comment below, what's it called on a plane when you can all hear? But they come on and they're like, okay, so we're not 100% sure what the problem was, but we've checked out the plane, doesn't seem like there is a problem. I'm like, okay, well, I did smell something burning, but all right. I'm texting my husband. I'm like, should I go? Like, should I ask to get off? My husband's like, yeah, you know, if you want to get off, like get off. I can pick you up. But obviously, you know, they've checked it over. Hopefully everything's fine. And right before we were kind of about to take off, he was kind of looking up news articles and things like that. And it turned out that the burning smell was actually from forest fires or wildfires in Portugal that had come into the atmosphere, been whipped around, and a ton of planes at the same time that we had declared an emergency had also smelled something and decided to declare an emergency. But as it turns out, nothing was wrong with the plane. It was in the environment. So I'm like, okay, so now I'm gonna get on, I'm gonna have a story to tell, I'm gonna go to Orlando, I'm gonna be in the sunshine and being like, Mayday, Mayday. Okay, it's all good. We take off, most people stayed on the plane. I'm like, how, you know, haha, bought a direct flight, now it's indirect because we had to stop off at Gatwick to Orlando. Okay, we're about 2 hours from Orlando now. I'm like, Mickey Mouse, I am home, I'm coming for you. And the pilot comes on again, and he says, well, first of all, earlier he did apologize for maydaying us, so just putting that out there, thank you, pilot, for your consideration. He did recognize his error and apologize. So now he says, hey guys, just to let you know, we have a medical emergency on board and we're going to need to probably divert. And obviously the fact that there was a medical emergency means that, you know, instantly whatever needs to be done needs to be done. You know, nobody was upset. We've already been diverted once, but again, Orlando can wait if somebody on board has a medical emergency. So, okay, so we're in the middle of the ocean though. Like, we are 2 hours from Orlando, kind of in the middle of the Atlantic. And I'm like, I don't know where we're gonna land, but I figured maybe we would land further north in the US because the route from the UK to the US is kind of like an arc. So we would hit the US first and then fly down to Orlando. So I thought maybe we're gonna land further north in the US, and I'm going to experience another US city, and then I'll be on my way to Orlando. So then he comes back over the loudspeaker. Again, I don't know what it's called. And he goes, hey guys, just to he probably didn't say hey guys, but in his pilot speak, he said, we're going to land in Bermuda. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be able to say that I've been to Bermuda. Like, I didn't even know where Bermuda really was. The public school system has failed me. I thought Bermuda was like closer to the Caribbean. Turns out it's not. It's in the middle of the Atlantic between the US and the UK. So they're like, we're gonna land in Bermuda. We're gonna take the passenger off to make sure that they get the help they need. So we're like, okay, everybody, like we're gonna land in Bermuda. Like, look out your plane window and see if you can see a palm tree, take some pictures. So we land in Bermuda and the passenger's taken off. And we are sitting there for quite a while, probably another hour or so, until they come back on and they say, hey guys, we are not actually allowed to leave Bermuda. And we're like, normally this would not be a bad thing, but we're trying to go to Orlando, so what's the deal? Basically, because of our earlier emergency landing, the pilots and the flight attendants have now run out their allotted hours that they legally can fly without taking a break. We're like, okay, well, maybe there's another flight, maybe there's another plane. Well, the airline I was flying doesn't fly to Bermuda, so there's nothing else to help. It's just us, the 300 something passengers, I think it was, and the crew, and there's no one to really do anything. There are other airlines that fly there, which I'll get to in a second, but in terms of us easily getting on another flight, not gonna happen. They keep us updated. Again, honestly, hours go by at this point. I think we were probably on the plane for like 4 to 5 hours after landing in Bermuda, like still on the plane. And they say, we're calling headquarters and we're trying to figure out and book all of your accommodation overnight. So we're like, okay, we are staying overnight in Bermuda. So again, we're waiting. The couple next to me have like definitely missed the rental car slot now. I am just so tired from the emotion of the day and feeling like I was gonna die earlier, and now somehow landing in Bermuda, even though my parents are waiting for me in Orlando, but okay. And also, it was really hard to get cell phone service because I was in Bermuda and didn't have a plan that covered Bermuda. So I had to turn on my global roaming and send like a $30 text to my dad. So finally, like 4 to 5 hours later, we are allowed to get off the plane, and they start with people with kids first. It was a flight full of people with kids going to Orlando. So like fine. And the rest of us child-free people were just waiting. Finally, we all get off this plane and we go into this Bermuda immigration line in the Bermuda airport. Bermuda was not meant to take a flight of 300 passengers. So it is so crowded. The poor Bermuda immigration officials are doing the best they can, but it's just so overwhelming. So we're waiting in this first line. I get given a Bermuda immigration card that's like, what's your purpose here? And I'm like, I don't know, accidentally landed. And I go up to the lady, so nice. She again had to be like, what's the purpose of your stay? And I was like, the situation. She's like, yeah, well, welcome to Bermuda. They're so friendly. Then we have to wait ages to get our bags, because now, I mean, Bermuda was not expecting this flight to randomly land here. At this point, it was like 10 p.m. Bermuda time. So, and that was kind of like, gosh, what would it have been? Definitely early morning in the UK. So we wait for our bags, because we all need our bags with our stuff to go stay overnight. We have no idea where we're staying. We have no idea really what is going on. And we're just kind of funneling through this airport, all kind of looking at each other like, how did we end up in Bermuda? Kind of not mad about it, but kind of also a little confused. We get into another line where we have to wait for more hours, because like all of the taxis and car services in Bermuda have banded together to help take us to our destinations, but there are hundreds of us. And again, it's late at night in Bermuda. Not everybody was really mobilized to take care of this kind of situation. So we wait, and you end up going to a person, saying your name, and they put you in a car with a couple other passengers, and they don't even tell you where you're staying. They just kind of get you in the car. So I get into this car/van with some other passengers, and this very friendly man who starts to say to this group of mostly British citizens, oh, you guys will feel so welcome here. Like, as you know, we're an overseas territory. And I'm like, I have flown 8 hours to get away from the UK, only to end up in one of their overseas territories. Like, the sun literally does not ever set on the British Empire. You can never leave it, basically, is what I learned. So we get in this van, we're going along, it's like 45-minute drive to the other side of Bermuda, and he drops us off, and the whole time I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, we're gonna go to like a Motel 6, like the airline's not, you know, maybe like a campground. The airline is not gonna spring for like the best of the best. But let me tell you, when you land in Bermuda, they've got no choice but to spring for the best of the best, because Bermuda is beautiful, and basically the empty spaces were at tons of very touristy, not in a bad way, but like hotels that tourists would come and stay, which are very nice. So I got dropped off at the Fairmount Southampton Hotel, and oh my God, my luck at this point totally shifted. This was like a gorgeous, gorgeous hotel. You walk in and there's like this huge like banister of stairs, and we get in this line for the front desk, and again, I'm like, I don't know what's happening. I'm calling my dad. I'm like, I'm in Bermuda. I'm at the Fairmont Hotel. He's like, okay. And I go to the front desk, and she's like, how many rooms do you need? And I'm like, I get to choose how many rooms I need. Okay, well, I guess I just need one. But she gives me my key. I walk into this room. I'm so exhausted. And I'm like, this is one of the most beautiful hotel rooms I have ever stayed in. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous view from the balcony of like the 8th best beach in the world or something like that I looked up later. Air conditioning like on all the way, which living in the UK as an American, I really miss air conditioning. And I'm just like, I still don't understand what's happening, but this is maybe the best thing that ever happened to me. And we are getting text messages about the flight and about what to do. So basically they said, like, breakfast is on us the next morning, and then we're supposed to report, I think it was 11, to the lobby. Cars will take us back to the airport where our flight will then leave. Again, the story is not over. I go to bed in Bermuda, wake up the next morning, I go get free breakfast, and I'm like, I'm gonna explore Bermuda while I'm here because it's gorgeous, but also there's like a tropical storm happening or soon to happen. So the winds are like whipping up, and it's kind of like overcast. It's not like bright. I'm like, I'm in Bermuda, so don't care, gonna go explore. So I go out like exploring on the beach. There's a beautiful golf course I'm walking along, and it was just like this crazy moment where I was like, this is amazing, but also how did this happen? And finally I report back around 11 to when they say the cars are gonna take us to the airport. As we're looking outside, the palm trees are like swaying like this, like touching the ground and back up. And I'm like, I don't think our flight is gonna leave at 11. And sure enough, it didn't. We were grounded because no one could fly from Bermuda because of the storm. So we had to hang out in this lobby. We had checked out of our rooms, and at this point they were like, well, we're gonna get you to the airport, but your flight's not gonna leave yet. And we're like, okay, get us to the airport, that's a little bit closer. So we all get to the airport, and at this point it's probably like lunchtime, and they've arranged like this pasta lunch for all of us from like the airport people. Again, so nice, so welcoming, so friendly. And now we had to figure out the process of rechecking in a ton of people on this, what was supposed to be a direct flight. And the problems started happening now like full force. So people had lost their boarding passes. They had accidentally thrown it away. They were trying to check in all of this, like just trying to check in a flight of 300 plus passengers, like all at one time. It was absolute madness. And besides that, they don't have the staff because this airline doesn't fly to Bermuda. So we have other airline staff helping us. We have to go to like the Delta desks or something. And just a complete mess, but there was really nothing that they could have done better about it. It was just a mess because that was the situation. We end up finally getting lunch, staying in the airport for hours, and we all get through to the gate. So now we're sitting around. The flight that took off after us, like the day after, had already gotten there to Orlando. So we're like, wow, like should have booked that flight or should have booked an indirect one. But no, we booked the direct flight that has now taken 2 stops before it gets to Orlando. And we're waiting and waiting and waiting, and the British people are now starting to get more agitated because before it was like, you know, keep calm, carry on, worry about your parking. But now they're like, I'm missing out on my Disney trip, and Bermuda is beautiful, but not where I booked. So people are starting to get kind of antsy. I'm texting my dad being like, can you find this flight number? And he's like, no, it's not even showing up on the thing. I don't know, like, you know, just tell me when you take off and I will go to the airport. But like this flight, like it disappeared. Again, we're at the gate. And then they come over the now intercom at the gate and they say, hey guys, we're gonna have to wait a while longer because what happened is the medical emergency required some oxygen, all the oxygen to be used that they travel with. And it's a requirement that they need to make sure they have all of the oxygen tanks like full or whatever in order to have a safe flight. Totally fine, but they had to have that flown in by another airline who does fly to Bermuda, so we had to wait for that airline to get there. So finally that airline gets here, we have the oxygen, we are ready to board. And again, how do you board a flight of people that did not expect to get off and back on? Boarding passes are missing, people don't have their IDs, all of this craziness. So they're like checking us off on some sort of like printed out system. They didn't have their normal system, so that takes forever. We finally get on the flight and then they have to do the count because of course you want to make sure that you leave with the same amount of people that you dropped off in Bermuda, lest some poor soul, well, not really that poor because Bermuda was beautiful, but be kind of wandering the halls of some Bermuda hotel that you forgot them at. So that took like another hour and a half. And finally, after literally like after one of the longest delays on a direct flight I've ever experienced, we took off and about 2 hours later we landed in Orlando. Genuinely one of the craziest experiences of my entire life. I have other plane stories that I will share because it kind of always seems like when I get on a plane something crazy happens, but I will post the link if I can still find it to the news article about this below because Bermuda wrote a news article about this plane that emergency landed that everyone had to come together and help. So the airline did give us some compensation. They gave us like all of our flight back plus some extra plus a $50 gift card to Planet Hollywood, which is not a very good restaurant in Disney Springs, but at that point I would take it. Overall, I would love to go to Bermuda again, like actually explore. It was so beautiful, the people were so friendly, and mostly I just learned that no matter how desperate you are and how homesick you are for the US, you can never outrun the British Empire, so just stop trying. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely make sure to comment below and tell me your craziest flight experience. I really always have something crazy happen to me, but this was hands down the absolute craziest. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time.